Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Aya here, once again. For this week's video, I wanted to talk about the coalition strike made by the U.S. on Mosul, Iraq. And there was, what was it? I think 200 dead, but there's over 100 bodies pulled from the site of that U.S.-led coalition attack. And this attack really brings in concerns of civilian casualties. These coalition attacks, are supposed to be targeting ISIS, which is in the city, but there was more of a civilian casualties than there were ISIS casualties. Both the Iraq and U.S. Defense Departments launched investigations for the reason of the casualties that happened. They're searching for the civilian deaths between March 17th and March 23rd. The U.S. states that they do their best to make sure there are no civilian casualties at all. This subject is very controversial. I strongly believe that the U.S., especially with our current president, I strongly believe that they are less careless with war and how many civilians die. The Obama administration, I love Obama, but there were civilian deaths under his rule, and the U.S. Army was still in all these Middle Eastern countries with ISIS. For some reason, the U.S. has a major obsession with ISIS. I think solely because they are a threat to us, the U.S. So the U.S. is willing to follow them wherever they go to try to stop them, no matter how many civilian deaths. Now the U.S. and Iraq have been trying to regain control of Mosul since October, I believe. ISIS has had a really strong hold on Mosul until January. So the Iraq government and the U.S. government got a hold of eastern Mosul, but the fight for western Mosul is still being fought. And what's really interesting about the situation is that the Iraq government specifically told their people to stay indoors, which makes people assume, my home is not going to be attacked because they told me to stay home. So they're telling me that I am safe at home, when in reality they had the coalition strike where the government said they were safe. And now they're going into investigations on, why did it happen? Well, this is why it happened. The U.S. bombed mainly a civilian place, so of course they're gonna kill civilians. And not only that, but the Iraq government told their people, stay in your homes, nothing's gonna happen. Well, of course something happened. U.S. had a coalition strike. So it's really both of their faults, the U.S. and Iraq, for the civilian casualties, and it's really not fair to the Iraq citizens that they have to keep going through this. Now, the main problem I'm seeing, a reoccurring problem, is the fight against ISIS. ISIS seems to be all over the place, at least in the Middle East. And there's supposed traces of ISIS in Yemen. There's traces of ISIS in Syria, and now in Iraq. So the U.S. is heavily obsessed with ISIS, again, mainly because ISIS has a major threat against the U.S. But the U.S. really has to be careful and really has to take into account all the civilians they're killing in the fight. Now, what the U.S. really has to think of, along with everybody else, is what is the best way to stop ISIS without killing any more civilian lives. The civilian casualties have gone far too high. And nobody deserves to have their own country go through war and to have themselves in those devastating conditions, you know, disgusting water, no food, no clothing, no shelter, no nothing. And to see your family die around you, it's not okay. You know, nobody deserves to go through that. So, you know, I say these countries need to come together and really have a long discussion on how to stop ISIS without any more, you know, killing of citizens. And it is going to be really hard. ISIS has been unstoppable so far, so obviously it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of planning. But I have faith that we can, you know, that the countries can come together and get it done. But the U.S., again, as stated earlier, the U.S. has to be careful with the carelessness of getting into war, especially because we now have a threat from North Korea, supposedly, after they've launched their missile program. They're doing a lot more stuff with missiles, and they claim that they have a missile that can't reach the U.S., and the U.S. The U.S. should be worried. Our president states that if he has to go to war, we'll go to war, no problem. And that's not the right attitude to have, especially because people doubt North Korea. I know they're far back on technology, but don't doubt somebody, especially at a scale like this. We want to avoid war altogether. So they just have to be careful. If you want to stop ISIS without having North Korea intervene and bomb, it's, you know, you have to be careful. You have to have a strategic plan. And this plan involves no more killing citizens, no more killing Iraq citizens, no more killing Syrian citizens, no more killing Yemen citizens, no more killing any citizen, okay? That was the video for this week. I hope you enjoyed it. The mine and Dima's blogs will be down below if you guys want to check those out. I'll see you guys soon, and bye.